Hello. I must apologize in advance because I know that the audio is going to possibly be pretty loud because there are a lot of cars driving by on the street, but that's apartment living for you. So today we're going to be talking about budget-friendly ways to make your home feel more Victorian. So the Victorian period was a time that you would see ornate wallpapers, fancy decor, vibrant colors, cluttering of items. You would see lots of dark furniture like this, and overall it was a pretty dark, moody interior, but it also contained lots of plants. Now, the first thing I want to say before we jump into the budget-friendly ways, the easiest thing that you can do is start incorporating more textures, more patterns, making your room feel more eclectic, because that is kind of how they set up their interiors. Just that alone can make a really big difference and make the space feel more interesting. But that being said, let's start with the first idea. So the first idea I'm currently standing in front of, and that is, can you guess what it is? Can you guess which item I'm referring to? It is wallpaper. But this isn't wallpaper. This is a DIY wallpaper that I made using a sheet. I thrifted this sheet. I got it for, I think, $6. It is a king-sized sheet. It almost covers my entire wall, but it definitely covers it from floor to ceiling, which is really important for me. I put the sheet on the wall using weather strip nails. There's also a renter-friendly way to do this that I did in the past in my light academia room makeover, which I applied to the wall using alien tape and safety pins. But since I'm able to put holes in my wall at my current apartment, I decided to do weather strip nails just because it's way easier of a process and it looks much nicer and it's more taut to the wall. But another way that you can apply a sheet to a wall is by using liquid starch. This is extremely inexpensive, but another pro to using liquid starch, and this is the best pro of them all, is that it doesn't ruin the sheet. So when you peel it off the wall, it leaves no residue behind on the wall, and you can just throw the sheet in the wash and it's a normal sheet again that you can use on your bed. So this is definitely the most cost-effective way to do wallpaper, and if you're thrifting sheets and you happen to find a bunch that match, you're gonna spend around $20 to $50 to do an entire room, which is crazy because wallpaper just for a roll can cost up to $300. But besides it being extremely cost-effective, it transforms your room. I mean, my room looks entirely different now that I have wallpaper on it, and every time my dad walks in here, he's like, this room feels haunted, and that's exactly the vibe I was going for. I love that response. The next thing you can do is start incorporating sconces into your home. I would highly recommend thrifting these if you get lucky enough to find them. I got some for $2. I will say that's pretty rare. Now, there are many options that you can go with when it comes to a sconce, but I wouldn't say to limit yourself to something that's just gold or just dark wood like the ones I have here. Just having one in general is a great way to give off that Victorian vibe. And of course, you have to have candle tapers. I have flameless candle tapers. These are my favorite because I can turn them on at any time. They are adjustable and they can flicker or just be a light, just so I can have that candle light without it being dangerous. I'll list them below in case you're interested, but it's nice to always have a light going if you are going to have sconces. So I have a gold sconce right here that I got from Facebook Marketplace. I got 2 of them for $10. And then I got these 2, this pair on the wall from an estate sale for, I think they were $2 each. You can also look for sconces that are hardwired, or you can look for sconces that are plug-in. Those are great. I found a plug-in sconce that's now in my living room, and I got that for $5 on Facebook Marketplace. I have forgot the rest of my ideas, so let's open the book. Oh, okay. Another thing you could incorporate to your space that brings some good light is by getting some oil lamps, or you could get some converted oil lamps that are actual light fixtures. That's what I have. I absolutely love this thing. It is so unique. I get so many compliments on it whenever people see it because it's not something that you really see in people's homes today. But do keep in mind, if you do get an oil lamp, you can always convert it yourself. I have seen some lantern lamps at places like IKEA, but they are new, so it's not gonna look old, it's not gonna look vintage, but of course you could always age it to look old. And you could go for something like a lantern type style over an oil lamp, because I've seen a lot of those that are battery operated or ones that are plug-in. The next idea, which is relatively easy, and that is plants. Now you might be saying to yourself, okay, just having a plant in my home isn't going to give Victorian vibes. When I say plants, I'm talking about give yourself a huge palm tree in your home. Give yourself a big fern. Those are common houseplants that you would see during that time period. And when you look at the interiors during this period, you will see a lot of palm trees. And I feel like every time I'm looking at some traditional interior design and they have a huge palm tree, I know exactly what they're going for. You could see no plants at all, but as soon as they throw in a palm tree, it really just looks more Victorian. I can't explain it, it just does. So the next idea is to get a settee or a parlor chair. I got my beautiful chairs from Facebook Marketplace. I got them for $50 each. I thought that was a steal, but in itself, it's a very Victorian type chair. And I feel like if you have a home that's incorporating some modern pieces and some vintage pieces, it still works really well. The next idea is a ornate mirror. Man, oh man, these can be pricey, but there is a DIY way to do this. I made mine for, you know, I'm not entirely sure of the price because it was so long ago. I'll show you how I made it though. Here's the video. And all I did was thrift a mirror, and then I bought an onlay to add to the mirror after the fact, and I spray painted it gold. Now it may not have a ton of embellishments that you might see on a Victorian ornate mirror, but it still gets the job done. So if you've always wanted one of these mirrors, fret not, my friend, you may do it yourself. The next idea, which is on the topic of lighting once again, which I kind of forgot about, is a chandelier. But when I say a chandelier, I'm talking about, I think it's called a candelabra chandelier, and it's a chandelier that you would put candle tapers in like this. But of course, nowadays, you're not gonna find one that just holds candles. You're gonna find ones that have been converted, or they are new and they are hardwired, which is amazing. If you're the type of person that's like, I need to go buy this now, that's okay. You can be that type of girl. I support you, go do it. But you might pay more for it. That's literally the only difference. You're just gonna pay more. But if you are thrifting, you're probably gonna find it for a pretty inexpensive price. I mean, I have seen some chandeliers for around 30 to 80 bucks on Facebook Marketplace. And in terms of a light fixture that is vintage, I think that's a pretty good deal. But if you do have a room that contains more Victorian pieces of furniture, but you still want a chandelier and you can't find a candelabra chandelier, just get a chandelier that has crystals or something, because it still gives off the vibe. The next one is really simple, and it's just to collect more pieces of furniture that are darker in tones and bring them into your home. You could go for black, you could go for a dark espresso like this, or you could even stain pieces of furniture you already own. Now, if the piece is already sealed and you'd have to sand it and you don't have a sander, that's okay. You can also just paint it, and not everything has to be dark. The main reason that furniture was dark back then was because they had coal to heat their homes. But obviously today, we don't have that. So you don't have to have every piece of furniture dark. In fact, don't. It's much more appealing to have some diverse pieces in your home and not have everything look like you got it off of a floor of rooms to go. So when it comes to Victorian interiors, you would see a lot of maximalism, that's what I would call it now. Lots of collections of items all over the house, and something that you can easily do in your own home today is just by creating a gallery wall. I did find some examples here of people doing it in their homes, and these are historical images from the 1800s. This is just a nice way to show a bunch of older historical photos. If you're gonna do this, put in some historical photos, guys, come on. But a gallery wall just gives off the vibe of a maximalist accent wall. So when you're looking for frames for this, you can of course thrift frames, or you could even go to the dollar store and get frames. They have a huge selection of frames there, and it may not be real wood, but it looks like real wood, and that's all that matters. You could look for dark wood frames, you could look for gold frames, you could look for ornate gold frames or ornate wood frames as well, if you can find those for an affordable price. And for an inexpensive way to get photos, you could find an old book with some historical photos on the inside. Or, I mean, I was just kidding about the photos. You can put whatever you want in the frames, but a good way to get artwork for frames is by seeking out a book with lots of pictures in it. Another really good place is to look for frames at estate sales. I can't recommend it enough. I will put the app that I use to find estate sales below in case you're curious to check it out for yourself. But I ended up snagging 2 ornate gold frames that I have been wanting for so long. I got them for $12 for both at an estate sale. Moving on to the next one. I don't know why I'm laughing. Moving on to the next one. Get yourself together. I'm trying. Okay, for the next idea is to get a tea shelf. I think that's what it's called. I can't think of the name right now. I'm so sorry. I'll put the proper name up. It's a shelf that contains your teacups, saucers, and teapot. Now, if you don't drink tea, I'm not gonna say go out and buy a tea set just so you can display it. That's such a waste. Such a waste, guys. But if you do drink tea and you have teacups and saucers already and you're like, oh, it would be so nice to display them, how do I do that? This is the way you can do it. And you could just go about making some shelves, buying some shelves, and displaying your tea set in general, because that's something you would see in the home. So maybe this idea should have just been displaying your tea set. Yeah, we'll go with that, and also getting the shelf if you can find it. Okay, what's the next one? The next one is by getting a wall sconce shelf. So instead of having, you know, a wall sconce candle holder, you could get a shelf instead. You could put candles on top of it, you could put decor on top of it, and normally it's just this tiny shelf that has ornate detailing underneath, or sometimes you can find them a bit more simple, but I love them. I think they're great surrounding a piece of artwork like this, or even having them next to a chair where you could put a coffee on it. Why not? Or tea. I think they're so pretty though. I look for them in gold, but you could also look for them in wood tones, or again, you could DIY by painting something that you find. Another lighting option I forgot to mention is a candelabra. These do run. These can get expensive if you're looking for a vintage one. That is why I opted for a new one, which I think this was $16 or $19 from Amazon. I love it. I love it. I have seen them at estate sales, but every time I get there, someone always snags them. And they're always selling them for like around $40 to $85, which is, I'm sorry, that's just out of my budget. So I got a new one and it's really pretty and I like it a lot and I'm happy with it, but this gives off the vibes. So I think that is it for all of the ideas. Honestly, I could say more. I'm trying to keep this video relatively short. I could go off for a long time. There are many more items I could have mentioned, but we're gonna keep it there because I feel like that's enough. I do plan on making more videos within this series that cover more historical interiors instead of just aesthetics, so stay tuned for that. I hope you stick around for it, and I'll see you in the next one.